Morning, folks. This is the third part of our video. We're going to wrap this up on this shop. I'm going to start putting lettering in. We're going to be using black pavement paint, acrylic paint, for the letters for the cemetery sign and for the Hagar dock. And then for the cross we'll be pouring epoxy pigment for that. As most of you know, I'm not the most professional painter, but so that's why I have the Wolseley cemetery all masked off, just so that I can avoid some drips and stuff, and hopefully we shouldn't have any issues. you doing, folks? Okay, this is the third part of our video where we're going to do our final epoxy pours. We're going to start out on the Hagar dock. We're going to be putting some blue in there, and in doing so we're also going to fill in the colors on the cross itself. And for the Wolseley Cemetery, that will be done last when we pour the epoxy clear coat over everything. So let's show you what we got going. Okay, what we're going to be using for our blue color is what they call Crater Lake Blue Metallic, and it's pretty vibrant, as you can see here. And what we'll be doing is we'll be adding that into our epoxy. But before we do that, we're going to take steal a little bit of that epoxy and put it in a smaller cup for the cross for the letters. And we're going to do a 2-for-1. So, okay, we're going to be using our wood shop epoxy flood coat, which is good for up to 1/8 of an inch. For curing, you can use it for, like I mentioned in previous videos, you can use it for doing detail work like this with a pigment and mixed in with it. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll start with our B coat, or our B, part B. We're going to want 2 ounces total, so I'm going to put 1 ounce of this in here. And this will be enough to cover all of what we need to do for the 2 sides. And this is a 1-to-1 ratio, not like the penetrant where it's a 2-to-1 ratio. Come on, just a little more. There we go. Whoa, 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 whoa. There we go. A little thick and soupy. And we're going to mix her up. Off camera, literally off camera. Just kidding. Just kidding. You can see how milky that is. Well, maybe you can't. Sorry, folks. Put it right here. It's okay. You can see how milky that is. Plus, it's a little bit cool out. It was 64 in here, and I bumped the temperature up to 70. So the epoxy was sitting out here all night last night in 60-degree weather, so it didn't help by cooling it. Had I set it in warm water, it probably would have helped out a lot. All it does is it just creates more air bubbles in the process of mixing it. But you keep mixing this, you make sure you get the sides, the bottom, and then again I go the other way too once in a while, because you don't have to worry about it, it's not going to unmix. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of that and we're going to pour a little bit into this for the black. Okay, take our metallic blue, and be very careful with this, folks. Just like diamond dust or any of the other parts that they put in, it can fly all over as well. So we want this to where it's going to be not translucent. I want to be able to see through it. Try that. See what we have there. epoxying these grooves here. Not to worry, we're going to sand this down anyways. I'm just going to put a light film in over the top, just enough to fill in the grooves. We're not going to go around the loom, just down to the bottom portion of it. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now we can pour the rest of this in here. I'm gonna call that good on that. A little extra paint's not going to hurt. Okay, now we'll go ahead and we'll go with our black. Just epoxy in this little one. I know it looks like crap now, but I'd rather have it this way. Then we can do a sand to sand it smooth and everything will come back. Pack down into those routed letters. Okay, I'm gonna get my acid brush here. If it doesn't fill it in 100%, that's okay, because we're going to be putting a flood coat over the top of it anyways. But I just want to make sure that it's all the way through. Okay. Let this sit a bit. Get a little shot of alcohol. So we'll be playing this cat and mouse game for a while. As far as clearing air bubbles out, I might end up using the torch yet. I'm getting a lot of bubbles from the epoxy. Like I said, it was cold, so it didn't help with that being cold. So I might have to use the torch to really get into it a little bit better. But other than that, it's gonna work good. I'll go ahead and torch this off camera, and we'll come back a little bit later and take a look at it. Hey folks, we're back. Everything looks good. I went ahead and sanded down the sign on the cross to get the letters to stand out, and they look pretty good. And the Hagar dock, I sanded that down as well, and it looks really nice. I think we're gonna have a decent looking little sign here. And of course the Wolseley Cemetery, we didn't do anything more with that because there was no need for it. I already painted the line or the letters and the outside border. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up our epoxy, and we'll start with the Wolseley Cemetery sign. And once I start pouring the epoxy, I'll tell you how I mixed it, how much I used and everything. So I'll be right back. I mixed up 14 ounces of clear flood coat epoxy, and that's what it called for this sign. And I'm just about ready to pour it on here. It's mixing up really good. It's a lot clearer than it was yesterday when we did it. Of course, it was a little bit colder, and I had the heat on all night last night for this to cure for the epoxy that we poured yesterday, and it really made a difference. So, okay. And this is a 1-to-1 ratio. What we're going to do is we're just going to pour it in as so here. Shall do this. We don't need a whole lot in there. Whoa. Hold on there, hand. I have a little nerve damage from bumping my funny bone too many times in the years ago, and sometimes my hand likes to take off. So in case you ever saw that in previous videos, that's what it is. Nothing traumatic. More out here. You want to make sure that you also have your area level. If you don't have a level, you're going to have a mess on your hands. There. Put that shape to use. Now, epoxy will go only where you pour it. So if you have areas where the epoxy hasn't come to, it won't go to it as easy. So what we're going to do is get this all out of here. Once we get this part here all leveled up and working the way we want it, we'll continue on with the letters and the border, but I want to make sure we get epoxy flowing where we want it here. Once you get the epoxy in that area, it will follow it and it will self-level. That's what we want it to do. And if you don't get it in that area, it will not self-level to that area. It might, and if you get a little bit too much in there, don't worry about it. It'll come back out. It'll go wherever it wants to go. There we go. As I said, I didn't want to make this a heavy sign, but I wanted to make sure that it was covering epoxy. And I went 1/8 of an inch. That's what I figured for a depth. Okay. Now I'll take our acid brush. Now we're going to do something else on here. It will help eliminate air bubbles and any epoxy that didn't get fully mixed. It will help mix it up. And that's what we call chopping. You can do this with your hands. Brush works good, but it just gets rid of air bubbles too a little bit. I brush it on here as well. Hopefully it'll eliminate a lot of dripping that we get over the edge on the back side. I just want a thin coat on there. Let that set for a few minutes, and then I'll go ahead and hit it with a little bit of heat. get some of those bubbles out, and then maybe we can just go ahead and use isopropyl alcohol afterwards. So I'll be right back. There are, folks, there's what the sign looks like after I hit it with the propane torch instead of alcohol, but I'm sure it's going to bubble up some more, so we'll just let it set. And now we'll go ahead and go over to the cross. Okay, here we go with the second pour. I've got 10 ounces of epoxy for this cross. When I did my calculations, I went with the length and the width, and it was almost as much as what we put on the Wolseley Cemetery. So I cut it in half down to 10 ounces, and to be honest with you, I think I've got enough here to do this one and the Hagar dock. So we'll see what we got here when we start pouring it here. Got a lot of air bubbles introduced into this, but we should be okay. So here we go. Kind of want to pour it around to where it's where you want it. And again, like I said, you got to have your signs level. If you don't have them level, the epoxy will pour one way, downhill, and it's not fun. Ask me how I know. But that's just with practice and experience when we're working with epoxy. Now what I'm trying not to do here is I'm not trying to get too close to the edge quite yet, because if I do, it will start waterfalling right over the edge and dripping before I even get it finished with what I want here. So this part here is not too bad. I don't mind about that. It's a little bit too much buildup there. You can control your epoxy to a certain extent, where you want it to go, when you want it to go. Down into here because we're going to get it in there anyways. Put that off to the side. Grab our acid brush. Now we can control it to where we want it. At this point, I don't care if it flows over. It's looking pretty good. Okay, as you can see, it's going to start to flow there. Now, let me swing you over here to the other side. We'll go ahead and use up what we got for that Hagar dock. This here we're going to flood right completely over the loom, fill all that in first. I might have overestimated my epoxy for that cross. Find out if it's not a big deal if I have to mix more up. Not at all, because we're using clear and no pigments. That's the only time you run into problems, if you're using pigments. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and just slide it right around here. Over the edge, didn't I? Well, that lucked out. We didn't have to mix any more epoxy. So, what I'm trying to do is careful I don't step into the epoxy because I had some drip on the floor here. But I'm trying to get this to come over the edge. There. Okay, we can do this, chop it again. Make sure I have no bristles that come out again. It'll break up the air bubbles too, it does a little bit. Or it creates more, depending on how you look at it. I'll chop the cross too. Sorry I didn't have the camera on here. But it's the same thing as doing this Hagar dock. As you can see, we do have some air bubbles on here. Just use a torch real quick, and I'll hit this again later. As you can see, bubbles are gone. You don't want holding on there too long, because you'll cause your epoxy to smoke. And that's not good. Cross after we shot all the bubbles out of it with the heat. And we're done. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're just going to go ahead and let these set for a while. Here, and I'll come back, and if I have to hit it with heat again to take bubbles out, we will do so. But I think we're going to be good on this. We had a good mix. Temperature's spot on. It is 72 degrees in here, and that's the biggest thing, is you have to have your temperature. And so I think we're going to be all set. So I'll go ahead and sign off for now, and we'll come back. Hey folks, we're back. This is the next day after our pour, and this is what we came out with is for the Wolseley cemetery sign. Turned out pretty good. On the glare from the LED lights above. Cross. Turned out excellent. And here's the Hagar dock sign, which turned out pretty good. Only problem is we decided that last night a 1/2 inch worm decided to meet the sign, and right there is where it landed, and I had to dig it out. So what we're going to have to do is do a re-pour on this. But I don't have to do too much. I'll only do about maybe 3 ounces for a pour. Just enough to do a light coat over this to fill in that. You can't actually just put a spot there and call it good, because you'd actually see it. So what I'll do is I'll end up doing a real light sand over this, and putting another coat of maybe 3 ounces of epoxy over the top, and that's not going to hurt anything. And this is still, it's solid, it's not sticky or anything, and but just taking 220 grit sandpaper over the top of it will rough it up just enough to where when I pour the next coat onto it, it will adhere to the epoxy and it won't have any problems. So, but yeah, that's what happens. I tried everything to be good with it. Shut the lights off, so LED lights or bright lights have a tendency of attracting insects, and then when they see the glare, on the wood, they'll go ahead and go to it. It's like, don't look at the light. Well, they did. And this sucker did in this case and went right straight to the epoxy and got stuck. So I had to dig them out. And but we'll manage. This is just a minor setback. Hey folks, we're back. It's been a few days since we've done this epoxy pour, and we did that. Had to do another top coat of the Hagar sign, and it turned out pretty good. And what we're going to be doing in the next shot here is we're going to be taking all the drops of the epoxy off the back, and then we're going to put a top coat of epoxy, quick coat, on the back just to seal it all in. And then I'm going to use the sander with 60 grit sandpaper and just lightly get it down to the bare wood, and then we'll tape it all off on all the signs, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put our top coat on, or quick coat on there as well. And so let me get into it. Okay, what we're going to be using is epoxy quick coat, and it has a 15-minute pot life. In other words, once you get it mixed, you've got 15 minutes to use it, and the drying time is 3 to 4 hours, and it's ready for use in 12 to 24 hours, which is going to be perfect. So by the time we get this on here, we're just putting a light thin coat on the back just to protect it. And hopefully, this is Thursday, hopefully Monday we'll be able to send this out, or Tuesday we'll be able to ship these out and be all finished with it for the customer. And I put a tape dam around the outside perimeter of the sign, and that's just to keep it from running over the other side, so we don't have drip marks on the front of the sign. And we'll chop this. It takes a majority of the air bubbles out, or some of the air bubbles out. Might introduce a little bit to it, but it also helps mix the epoxy up better if you didn't get it fully mixed. It incorporates it. Here. Looks like our tape dam is holding, which is a good thing. And once this fully cures, all we'll have to do is just take and hand sander and just lightly sand the edges a little bit, and that will prevent from getting cuts, because epoxy does get extremely sharp. Well, the epoxy's all cured on these two, so what I'm going to do is take the tape off, and this epoxy leaves an awful sharp edge where we left the tape. So what we'll do is we'll peel this off and sand this off camera. And there's what it looks like encapsulated. Like I said, I'll take a sandpaper and we'll sand it down a little bit on the edges there. Get the edges smooth. And that'll be ready for delivery. Okay, there we are with this one, the cross. It's really nice. It's going to turn out sharp. Okay, I'll go ahead and tape the Wolseley Cemetery cross off camera, and then I'll bring you back. Okay folks, we got this all chopped. It's all set. It's going to be on cure. Probably about 3 hours it should be done. And I'll be able to sand the edges off like I said. And we'll be able to ship them out next week. I hope you like this video. Click the thumbs up and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. And I'd also like to give a shout out that if you would please support your local fire department and first responders. They're out there, they're busy all the time, and they're doing a great job out there. So, okay folks, this will be it for this final video of the Hagar Farm Legacy. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day and God bless.